Good morning, everybody. We're gonna kick off today. I want to thank you all for coming. I tell you, it's been the weather we've been having lately. I mean, this weekend was beautiful, and now we're back to living in Seattle or London. But a couple of things. I'm excited. I have Lynne Rhodes here today. She's president of Cape Cod NAACP. She's going to share some thoughts with you. Very interesting story. We had a very nice meeting a little while ago, and I thought it would be nice for her to come in and give her perspective. If you notice over across the way at the police department, you see some people working on the outside of the structure. I have a little headache right now. It's a little loud as they're cutting into the building and they're trying to figure out where all the water's coming in from. So they're trying to take care of that right now. I think last month I told you they replaced some rugs. We're doing some painting. Like I describe it as it's still gross, but it's a clean gross. And the town's going to work towards a feasibility study, and I'll keep you updated on where we're going with that. The staff's doing extremely well, working really hard. I have two people in FTO now. You met one officer last month. There was another officer I wanted to introduce you today, a young woman we hired from Barnstable County Sheriff's Department. She's in FTO. We have another one starting in 2 weeks. And I just gave another conditional offer to a Rochester police officer as a lateral transfer. And the 9 that we have in the academy are doing extremely well. They're thriving. One is vice president of the class. Another is a platoon leader. So we're real excited. So even though we're up there, I still have 3 open positions right now. I just had a recent retirement as well. So I'm trying to fill those. And then we'll have 2 additional positions to fill, July 1 and July 2. And then hopefully the staffing study will come back because there's a lot of things that I would like to do, as you folks know. Get a lot of complaints still about traffic-related issues. I received an email this morning from a gentleman about people that don't dim their high beams. And it's just very difficult with the call volume that we have. It's just trying to just answer the calls right now, and it's very difficult. So I'd like to really have some additional staff where we could have a traffic unit. We could have more investigators. We're dealing with everything from human trafficking to narcotics, breaking and enterings. There's just a lot going on that we'd like to be more proactive about moving forward. And we'll get there. It's just going to take some time to do that. But things are going very, very well across the way. Very proud of the staff. My command staff's doing well. We have 3 promotional processes coming up in May. We have, we're going to make 4 sergeants now. One of the individuals that retired was a sergeant. We're going to make 4 sergeants, 1 immediately, and then 3 July 1, 2, and 3. Those 2 positions that we're bringing back, 66 and 67, they're going to be sergeants. I always say the 2 biggest areas of liability for us in law enforcement is failure to supervise and failure to train. So as I'm going out to the precinct meetings right now, explaining the budget and the different things and questions, that's why the training monies, I had to increase it because we haven't been at full staffing since 2010. And even at full staffing, we're still probably well below what we should be. And I tell people all the time, based on our year-round population, 33,000, which I think we're much higher than that. I think COVID happened and people didn't leave. We should be at 78, and we'll be in July at 67. If you add our summer population, we swell to 6 figures, we should be 230. Now, we realize 230 is not possible. But because of Police Officer Standards and Training Commission, we can't have part-time police officers anymore. You have to be a certified police officer. So we're going to have to add to the ranks to really adequately be able to handle summer, but even our off-season, things aren't really slowing down. I thought we'd be a little bit quieter than we have been, but it is what it is. Like I say, I like to always end with, it's a very safe community. Your officers are doing an extremely good job, but we do need some help. And I'm going to basically advocate for the needs of the department to the best of my ability. And we're going to do the best with what we have, knowing that at times we may come up a little short. I know I posted the log. I say to all of you, if you're not, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. I posted the log, and a woman was upset saying, she wants to see more done, enough with meetings, more. And I agree. I would like to see more done as well, but you can only do as much as you can with what you have. And, that's just the sheer reality of Falmouth. It's a very busy community. We're the second busiest on the Cape. We're not far behind Barnstable. Next month, we're going to have a group coming in belonging to each other. I was actually asked to be on the advisory board. I attended my first meeting, not last weekend, the weekend before. And they're going to come in and they're going to really sit down and explain what we're facing here, the homeless situation that we have right here in Falmouth. And it's sad. And, we're dealing with mental health and substance abuse and all these different problems. And we're trying to help people to the best of our ability with the resources that we have. And it's a great organization that I'm proud to say I'm a part of now. I'll continue to advocate for all. And that's why today I'm really happy now to introduce Lynne, who's going to hopefully share some of the things she shared with me. I was very touched why I wanted her here today. It's a great story. And Lynne, if you want to come up.
Good morning, everyone. Ooh. So I wasn't sure what to expect here. And as I was sitting looking busy, this beautiful woman, Mrs. Moore, came to sit down with me. She was my fifth grade teacher. She was actually my brother's fifth grade teacher as well. When my father passed away, I was going through his belongings, and she had given us an essay question on what did Martin Luther King Jr. mean to you? And I answered that question, and somehow I never received that essay back. But I did find it was in my dad's belongings in a drawer of treasured items specifically to me. And this was my impression of who Martin Luther King was, and that my dad was an example of who Martin Luther King example was in life and in person. And two things struck me. One, that it was significant that she gave that to my dad and that he never said anything to me. But for me to find that in his belongings reminded me of this journey of me standing here today. My dad passed in 2018. When he passed, it was recognized that he filled so many shoes in the community. And his passing had a void that I am trying to fill. And it's been a extremely important journey, especially in the last few years of what's going on nationally and all politics or small politics. I've chosen to take one segment and try to do this the best that I can. I often try to channel what would my dad do in this situation. And I go back to 1981, 82, when he was, in fact, president of the NAACP at that branch at the time. And I would listen to his side of the conversation, not hearing what other people were saying, and trying to model him, to be reminded that I need to listen first, ask questions first, and to also carry a sense of authority and be able to speak up when necessary, to notice when there's an injustice, to find what I can do to help. The biggest challenge is I can't do this on my own. One thing I'm reminded is my dad, Lynne Rhodes, the president, John Reed before me, made this look easy. It is so far not, but I'm committed to trying. The story that Chief Lourie wants me to explain is my dad's mother's father. We never knew how old he was. We never knew when his birthday was. He was actually emancipated. We think he was about 9 years old, but we have no family history outside of him before him. My dad's father's parents, his father was lynched for marrying and having 2 children with a Black woman. My grandfather was born in Nashville, Tennessee. His mother took him and his sister to Kentucky, where the Ku Klux Klan went after to try to find a woman with 2 light-skinned children. Fearing for her children's lives, she took them to Indiana, put them in an orphanage. We never heard from her again. The person that my grandfather knew as his mother, I refer to as Grandma Carter. She was a domestic who lived in Indiana and worked in Indiana, but the person that she was a domestic to had property here on Cape Cod. Surprisingly, the couple that she was a domestic to had no children, so she was willed land, which is now MacArthur Boulevard. What happened was the state took it by eminent domain and gave her a sum of money. She took half the money, gave it to her son, gave it to her daughter, and my grandfather was able to buy a significant amount of land here. And in that land that she bought, ultimately is where the house I live in now. The NAACP was formed back in 1961 here on the Cape, here in Hyannis. Actually, it started in Falmouth and then was moved to Hyannis. And one of the first initiatives that was taken was the reverse freedom fighters, where people were relocated up here in the South and were told that President Kennedy would have jobs and places for them to live. In fact, that was not true, but we were able to enable and initiate and get these people homes and jobs so that they could survive. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, a lot of things kind of went behind the scenes, and a lot of people kind of have passed on, unfortunately. The task I have at hand is growing our membership, finding people who can actually help engage and make effective change. I can't do this by myself. I need people who are willing to help. I actually have members here in the audience who are actually active members in our NAACP, and I'm really excited to see them and to have them here. I understand this is supposed to be a conversation, and I'm not sure if anyone has any questions. We currently are meeting in a hybrid format the second Wednesday of every month. The hybrid, we're meeting physically located in the Zion Union Heritage Museum. They have meeting space that we're there. The meetings usually start at 7. As I said, it is hybrid. My geographic area is all of Cape Cod, so that we realize that there's some people who are members down in Provincetown, Eastham, who are not always easy to make the commute into Hyannis. So I've kept this hybrid format for a few more months until we figure out another plan. Anyone is welcome to that, and I welcome anybody to come to hear, to listen. You don't have to be a member, but we do want to share our message. if anyone has any questions, please let me know and I'll try to ask. Yes, sir. So, so the question is, how do we post our information? We currently are trying to redevelop our website, and we do have a Facebook page, and the Facebook page directs you to email me so that I can give you the link. Unfortunately, there are people who are nefarious, and we're trying to limit our access so that if someone were to, they have to ask for permission so we don't just randomly get our meetings overrun. Any other questions? Yes. So right now we're working on the the question is, are there any goals that we're currently working on, and can I talk about some of the goals? Yes, we're currently working on a significant initiative in the Hyannis area about affordable housing. And as people may or may not recognize, that a lot of our businesses have for hire signs. Unfortunately, the housing issue has been a significant issue. I looked at an apartment online in Hyannis, 1 bedroom, $2,150 a month. If you use the formula, 30% of your income should be designated to housing. That means that person is expected to earn $99,000 a year. Most of our, and we've noticed this significantly with both the Sagamore Bridge and the Bourne Bridge being worked on this last summer, the majority of our workforce is commuting over the bridge in a reverse commute because they cannot afford to live here. So one of the initiatives that we're working on is that. A second initiative we're working on is the equality in the school committees and in the school districts. I am getting an increased instances of people or students, parents calling me because their students are being aggressed upon. And the solutions that the school is saying is, instead of handling the aggressor, they're putting the student in what's equivalent to being suspended without rights, without any sort of judicial response. And the schools are going to the parents and asking them to agree with this, and we don't feel like this is equitable. We also have a relationship with the Barnstable County Human Rights Advisory Board. The Human Rights Advisory Board is actually trying to document a lot of these and disparities that people are finding. And unfortunately, the highest instances that they're reporting right now have to do with housing and have to do with issues in the school. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Thank you for your question. So the question is, when someone hears of issues like I just described, or issues that were clear racial inequity is in place, who do they go to? Sending an email to me would be great. My email is a version of my name. So to give context, I'm a triplet. My siblings are Lynn, Leslie, and Lee. I put LY so that my parents could see this and know it was me. So L-Y Rhodes, R-H-O-D-E-S, L-Y-R-H-O-D-E-S @gmail.com. We also have an equity, a DEI officer, Henry St. Julian, and he works in the school districts here. We were working here in Falmouth. I was actually on a community committee with the hiring of our DEI officer, and we were 90% close to hiring her, and somehow that fell through. So my next initiation is to re-engage with the town of Falmouth to advertise this position so we can try and get that going. There are several communities. Leslie Domingos Santos, and I always get her name miscommunicated, but if there are after show notes, I can give you that information so that people can access and communicate with her as well. Yes, please.
So I originally had Ryan Hurt, one of my supervisors. He was supposed to be with us today, but he had court. He's our civil rights officer. So if you actually if there's something you feel is a hate crime, you contact the police, we'll investigate it. And if it does meet that threshold, we'll criminally charge those responsible. But please contact the police. It's that adage. If you see something, please say something.
He took the words out of my mouth. Yes, sir.
Already aware of?
Mm-hmm.
An organization.
Yes, actually, yes, and they actually had something in the last month for that. But yes, it would be worth me connecting that again. I'm sorry, he had an organization. You said Cape Cod.
Yes, the Cape Cod Behavioral Health.
Cape Cod Behavioral Health
I'll touch base with you after.
Provider Coalition, which is also a group that focuses on behavioral health issues and inequities. And whenever there's a aggressor and an aggressed person, there's trauma that exists. There's trauma, there's how do you reintegrate whenever any circumstance occurs. There's a PTSD phenomenon that occurs, and it's important to give that person who's been aggressed upon community support and rebuilding on how to re-engage in the community. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your question. So, so the question is, when a DEI officer is officially hired for this town, how can we best utilize that person in the community in terms of education and in terms of what makes the best sense of what the best use is, short of needing to call the police for all altercations. There's a distinction between what's a criminal act and what doesn't meet the level of criminality. I found out that unless there's a physical assault in front of someone, and that can't be made arrest if it wasn't seen in your presence. Is that correct? Yeah, assault and battery.
Related.
But if it's race related, it is different. So there is a distinction. And being eyes, being part of the community to witness and to stand up for these actions, to be honest, I can't go into your house and tell you how to run your house. right? You need to be part of the conversation, that when you see something, to be able to divert the situation, intercede. I can't remember the 4 Ds, but to be able to intercede if possible, um, get that person who's being aggressed upon to safety, call the police, do something other than stand and watch. Yes, please. This
One-
is why it's supposed to be a conversation.
One of the
really.
things that Ryan Hurt was going to talk about, Sergeant Hurt was going to talk about, it's something that I embraced in Westboro when I was the chief there. We're dealing with a pandemic, we're dealing with social injustice. George Floyd happened, and we early on, my civil rights officer, he was a lieutenant at the time. Actually, he was a sergeant at the time. Now he's the chief in Oxford, Mike Daniels. We decided we witnessed a murder, and that's exactly what we called it. And what we watched was officers that didn't intervene, right? We have a duty to intervene. So I embraced a program out of George Washington University called ABLE, Active Bystanders in Law Enforcement. And what it is it's a program that trains you, you have a duty to intervene and for health and wellness. So when I came here to Falmouth, I identified our civil rights officer, Sergeant Hurt, and I asked him to research the ABLE program. And the ABLE program is basically, there's no cost. They train you to be a trainer, and then we offer it to all of our officers, but not just our officers, but to the entire Cape region. So duty to intervene, active bystander law enforcement, Ryan took it to a whole nother level. So I asked him to research it, and he said, nope, we need to implement this. So him and Tim Brandt, our school resource officer, they're both instructors. And in April into May, the entire Falmouth Police Department will be trained in this area of duty to intervene, identifying what your biases are. We all have them. We need to identify what they are so we can make sure that, people refer to us as law enforcement. I don't like to use that term. It's something part of our job, but what we do, it's policing. It's really helping people, and how can we identify better ways to make sure that we're being fair, we're treating people fairly, and we understand their side of where they're coming through. There was a story I like to share, and this is when things were bad. And you have to remember, a person's perception is their reality. I had an officer who was directing traffic on a thoroughway, and a pole had gone down. So he was stopping each car as they came up to him, and he was asking them, are you familiar with the neighborhood? And this one particular car that stopped, and the woman said, what, because I'm a person of color, I can't live in this neighborhood? And he said, no, ma'am. I'm just asking if you're not familiar with the area. I'll give you directions. If you are, I apologize. And she says, oh, I'm sorry. Can I have the directions? It's about having a conversation. It's about understanding that this is what this person was thinking at the time, that I'm being stopped because I don't belong in this neighborhood. That's how they felt, and we need to change that. And how we change that is by having conversations like this, so we understand each other. And it's okay to feel that way, whether it could be a religious bias or it could be a sexual bias. We're all people. And at the end of the day, people need to be treated with respect and dignity. And that's what we're going to try to do here in Falmouth, knowing that a person's perception is their reality, and we need to do whatever we can to change that perception to see that we're all caring people. I have, on a personal note, and I'll end with this, Lynne's story struck me hard, that a couple, white male, black female, fall in love, have a family, and he's murdered because of that. Well, my daughter, May 11th, is going to get married to a person of color. I don't want their kids, my future grandkids, to face racism. It was a whole new level after we were done talking of, my God, this is the reality. This happens. And it happened. And we need to understand it, and we need to fight against it. And again, if you see something, please say something. Thank you very much, Lynn. Any other?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So next month, and Lynn was great segueing into it. We're having Belonging to Each Other come in, talk about our homeless situation, about a lot of folks living in tents, living in their cars. I can tell you, I exercise every morning, and in the summer, I noticed this one particular person sleeping in a certain parking lot where I work out, and it was because every morning he would go in and he'd use the shower facilities, in this gym, because it was cheaper to have a gym membership for the months he was here down the Cape than to have a home, right? So this is the reality. Really good people, too, that are out there working, trying to survive for their families, doing whatever they can, Kalaring. So again, I look forward to being here next month with you, Belonging to Each Other, great organization, and then we'll figure out, talking with the staff here, figuring out June, July, and August. I'm going to try to keep it going, but as you know, July and August, I get a little busy. Even now, like this week, I don't think I finish till 8:30 every night, and usually I'm in bed at 8. So it's exciting times. Budget season is upon us. So thank you very much, everyone.